Today we're going to be talking about the belts and the hoses. It's the belts and the hoses. So whether this is your first time to ever start your engine or you are driving your Bronco on a regular basis, let's pop the hood, let's get in there, and let's check your belts and hoses. First, we're gonna check our drive belts. Now, because the engines vary over the years on these Broncos, your engine's gonna probably look a little bit different than mine. But when you're looking at the engine, the drive belt on the passenger side is the belt that goes to the alternator. Now, some alternators sit up here a little bit higher, but mine sits low and on the frame. Now, the drive belt on the driver's side goes to the power steering. And there also could be a drive belt that sits up here if you have an aftermarket air conditioning system. When checking the belts, what you're looking for are any cracks in the belt or where the fibers on the belt begin to show. If your belts have begun to wear down, they're super easy to replace. On the alternator, there's just a screw over here that you loosen up, and it loosens up the alternator that can then pivot around so that you can take the belt off. And also, if you're replacing the belt, you don't necessarily need to remove the mechanical fan. I didn't remove mine when I replaced my belts. To remove the power steering belt, it's pretty similar. So if your belts are starting to get worn down, don't get overwhelmed by this task. You can do it. You can replace your own belts. Honestly, the hardest part is getting the tension back on the alternator to get your belts tight. Next, you want to check all of your hoses. This is the upper radiator hose, and what you want to look for are any cracks in the ends of the hose or along the bends. Also, you want to check your heater hoses that run from the front of your engine block back to your heater core. Now, one of the things that I've noticed in my time working on these Broncos is everyone's heater hoses run a little bit differently. My hoses run a super weird way, and even when I bought the kit, it really didn't work together, and so I had to buy this piece from O'Reilly's that I hate, and I need to replace it and fix it. But a lot of times people have their heater hoses running up along the top of their valve covers. But with your heater hoses, you're checking for the same thing. You're checking for any cracks along the edges or at the bends. What you're trying to identify is any area where potentially in the future you are gonna have issues with your hoses and your belts. So this is a video I put together a few months ago for YouTube, but I think it's a great example of how your coolant flows through your heater hoses. Now, with my engine getting up to temperature, you can see the warm coolant beginning to fill up the heater hose, but it stops right before that temperature control valve. All right, now before you guys get on me for having air in my coolant system, I purposefully didn't bleed the system so that it would have more of a dramatic visual effect showing the coolant flowing through the system. All right, so now as I open the temperature control valve, you can see the coolant moving into the heater core. Now, watch as I step on the throttle. You can see how the coolant flows through the heater hoses and circulates through the system. It looks pretty cool having the coolant flow through the clear tubing like this, but this tubing isn't rated for 212 degrees. I think it's just rated for 170, so this is not safe to drive, but this is for visual purposes only. So I'm going to put a link in the description below where you can get some replacement belts, you can get some replacement heater hose or radiator hose. All right, so that's it for today. So your homework is to pop your hood, check your heater hoses, check your radiator hoses, check those belts, make sure that everything is good and in good working order. If you found any of this information helpful, there's a link in the description below to download the Better Bronco Challenge PDF. Go ahead and download it. It's free, it's for you, and follow the steps to have a better Bronco. But here's the thing, if you really want to get serious about this, there's a video series at betterbronco.com newbie.com. And you can buy the entire series and go through all of the steps that hundreds of people have gone through to get their Broncos in the best shape that it's been in for years. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.